Continuous learning is super important if you want to stay ahead as a business owner or an entrepreneur, whatever you like to call yourself. So today I'm going to show you how I keep learning and growing to make sure we're always improving and iterating forward. Step number one, you want to allocate some time for learning. I know, crazy. Just like going to the gym, right? If you want to be fit, you have to allocate time to going to the gym or running or whatever it may be, right? Doing the activity you want to get better at. If you want to get better at learning, or you want to learn more for your business, allocate some time to read books, listen to podcasts, take courses, take certifications, whatever it may be. And I would have specific dedicated time for this. And depending on where you're at in your business, it may be during business hours or it may be during your off time. But either way, I would allocate even an hour a week, and you're way ahead of most people because most people aren't doing this. But the thing you don't want to do is just leave it up in the air and say, I'll get to it when I get to it. You need to schedule it in. Otherwise, you won't do it. Just like if you don't schedule in time to go to the gym, you're never going to go to the gym. Just like if you don't schedule in time to spend with your loved ones, your family, your wife, your husband, you're not going to do it, right? So you need to schedule that in and make sure you have regular touch points to ensure that that thing is getting done, right? And so pick what you like the best. I've found the most helpful to be like reading books and reading books for an outcome. Typically, like there are lots of books that are, I mean, if you're starting a business, there's a lot of like motivational books, like how to start and like how to be a zillionaire. And I think those can be helpful because they're encouraging. But I think like tactical books might be a little bit more helpful. And it's a disproportionate amount of value you get from a book. You can get the knowledge and the tools of a, billionaire, millionaire, right? Famous person, celebrity, distilled down into a couple hundred pages, and you can get their knowledge much cheaper than you could, trying to buy into some like support or trying to buy an hour of their time for advisory or consulting. So I think books are typically the best. You can listen to them if you don't like reading them. I also think like courses and certifications can be helpful, especially if you're trying to like stay ahead. One of the examples I can think of right now is like people spending time to invest in and learn more about AI, who are in industries that can utilize AI. I mean, I think that's a great use of your time. Even if you find that these things aren't things you're going to implement, knowing what you're not going to implement is just as valuable as knowing what you are going to implement. I think people forget about that, right? Like I just finished a book right now, and I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to be mean to them, but I'm like, I don't like any of this advice. But now I know, okay, that's not a system that works for me, and now I know what not to do for me, right? I think that's still helpful. That's not time wasted, because knowing what direction to not go is also helpful when you're trying to get to a specific destination, right? If you reach a fork in the road, that place is not where you want to go, well, then it makes it much more likely that this other path is the correct one. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing, when it comes to learning, is I think seeking out mentorship, advisory, or networking can be super helpful. Now, this can be like too much sometimes. There are people who sometimes invest way too much energy, time, resources into networking groups and mentorship. Not to disparage that. I think it's fine if you want to do that, but I do think allocating some time to connecting with other industry experts and business owners, entrepreneurs can be helpful, especially if you're brand new. And especially if your business lends to strategic partnerships and joint ventures. So I think seeking those out intentionally, even if it's like not that often, once a quarter, right? Is helpful for you in your business. It's something that even to this day, I try to make it a point to do. And I've typically found that there's much more upside than downside to it. So I think seeking out like those sort of advisory, mentoring, networking opportunities is going to be super supportive for you, especially in a world where I feel like we are more and more disconnected and have less community than ever. So let's stay focused on, trying to foster that community. You want a couple people who are a little bit ahead of you, a couple people where you're at right now. And you do want a couple people who are behind you as well, because remember that while you're seeking knowledge and experience and support from people a little bit ahead of you, you're taking in that instance, right? You want to make sure you're giving to people who are a little bit behind you. And so do that. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't be too cool. Like, be nice to people. Like, it's unfortunate I have to say that, but in a world of posturing, I think just be authentic and don't think you're too cool to talk to somebody who's just starting out. Okay. And then the third thing I would say is a business owner trying to learn and how you keep learning is you want to make sure you are experimenting with things within the business, not to the point where you're going to cannibalize it, and also reflecting. There's a cool book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, which I recommend, where he actually advises for having what he calls thinking time, which is effectively time to reflect and think about new things for, both personal development, personal wealth development, but also business development and how you can grow. I think a lot of times, at least in my own experience and a lot of, hundreds of people I've talked to in the space, your best ideas and insights often don't come when you're sitting in front of the computer doing work, right? They often come to you when you're like, skateboarding or at the golf course or out to dinner or having a drink. And it just kind of comes to you when you're less pressured on coming up with solutions and answers. So I think allowing yourself some time to reflect. You could reflect with journaling. You could reflect by going for a walk. You could reflect if you're somebody who's like spiritual or religious. You could pray. Like there's lots of ways to do this. Meditating, right? All those things are helpful. But I think just making sure you're reflecting, super, super important, and dedicating time to make sure you reflect. So yeah, these are kind of the three things that have helped me keep learning as a business owner. And I've been a business owner now 16 years. Most of my life. Okay. Most of my adult life anyway, professional life. So yeah, and that's been super helpful for me. If there's some that I missed, maybe let me know. And if you find this video helpful, go ahead and like. If you want more support on how to grow your business, whether it's everything from, productivity to advisory to lead gen and sales support, maybe subscribe because we have lots of cool videos for you. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next one.